Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Pia Maffei and I'm owner of Artisan's Palette and also owner of the online community website called IamACleanEater.com. I am joined by, on the far right here on my right is Dina Yelly. She's a customer in the store and I've asked her to join us these past few times to really give perspective from everyday shopper, on her journey, continuing on her journey for clean eating, and to start to educate from the different levels of where we are on our journey. Because I'm at one level, she's at another level, so I want to pick up, anything I might miss in the questioning. And I have invited a very special guest to come back. This is Randy Farrar, owner of Harvest to You. And he was kind enough to come back because 3 weeks ago we did a video with him, which was actually very compelling. We got lots of views on this video, lots of feedback on this video, and so informative. So many people came back and said, oh my gosh, he's so knowledgeable.
Really?
Yeah, they just loved you, so you did a great job. So I've asked him to come back because part of this was when we turned the video off last time, the conversation continued. And I'm like, oh my God, this has to be back on. We have to do this live. So that's part of the reason Randy's back. And the conversation, we kind of hinted at it last time about the disaster that is the potato farming, industrial potato farming. And Randy's back to give us some of that feedback. Also in this video, what I'm going to do is Randy wrote a blog, and I'm going to link to the blog at the end of this in the show notes, so you're going to be able to read that blog and learn for yourself. So Randy, thank you. Welcome back.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your wisdom, your knowledge.
Thank you.
It is wonderful to have you back. And so let's just dive right into it.
Okay.
So we have, of course, farming. We have all sorts of vegetable farming and fruit farming. So we're going to focus specifically on potato farming. And then there's two tracks, right? You have the industrial farming farmer that's going to farm industrially, and then you have the organic farmer that's going to farm in organic ways. So those are the two tracks. Highlight those two tracks on a high level of what are the differences between the two.
I would say, well, let me preface it with, after doing the research on this, it is very difficult to grow potatoes commercially, whether organic or non-organic. There's a lot of challenges that a farmer is faced with.
Okay.
The non-organic farmer, in my opinion, takes more of a process approach, a chemical approach. Let's just kill everything.
The industrial farmer.
The industrial farmer, okay. And the organic farmer has to take more of a biological, ecological. He has to be an entomologist. He has to have...
That's a big word. What does that mean?
Study of insects. He has to understand his ecosystem, the environment.
Okay.
We're in the 21st century. We have so much knowledge on almost everything that there's no reason why we can't learn to control or manage pests ecologically without resorting to deadly chemicals.
Okay. So when you said it's very difficult to grow potatoes, why? Why is that true for all tubulars, or what is it about a potato that makes it so difficult to grow?
Remember the Irish potato crash, 1845?
I don't.
I think it was 1845 to 1848.
Okay.
Well, the Irish discovered many years before that they could grow this plant and provide most of their protein and nourishment. And so the potato just took over Ireland. And unfortunately, they were only growing one variety. That was it, just one type of potato. So you got potato blight, which the farmers in the U.S. have to deal with. It destroyed their entire potato farming industry within 3 years. Whole fields would just melt because of a fungus.
Okay, so they went in. What was the one type of potato that they were growing that this happened?
I don't remember.
Okay.
In fact, I don't even think it's around anymore.
Okay, so that just, you can't even get an heirloom seed from it. It's just gone.
Yeah, it's
done.
It was done, and you had millions of people die. It was a major famine.
Because the famine.
Exactly.
Okay. That was interesting that you said that with the potato. I don't think a lot of people realize, because they see it as a starch and they're too worried about eating a potato because it's high in starch. But I don't think a lot of people know how much protein is in a potato.
Well, for protein in wheat, it has as much, if not more, protein than wheat.
Yes.
It's bigger, it has more liquid in it.
Yeah. So when we're talking about you don't want to eat a potato, it's not because potatoes are starchy. Okay, it's because of the way they're grown, an industrial potato. That's what we're talking about. So we want to make it very clear that these are, when you go into a restaurant and you're eating potatoes in the form of French fries, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, country potatoes, breakfast potatoes, whatever they are, they're being grown in this specific way that we're going to walk you through and explain this process. So let's first talk really thoroughly about the industrial way. So the industrial farmer has a seed, right? So it's going to be russet
all potatoes start from cuttings.
Cuttings.
Baby potatoes, or just pieces of potato.
Okay.
That have been calloused over.
Okay.
So they're not raw. Okay. And then they plant those. And you want to go through this little list on?
Okay.
This is really
perfect.
good.
Okay.
Now this is interesting because the commercial process is very regimented. First of all, they have to fumigate the soil.
Okay.
And
with a chemical.
With a chemical.
Okay.
And they literally kill every microorganism in the soil. So you have a sterile state. For me, just that alone, ethically, I have a hard time with. We're just our soil is probably our most important resource in the world, and so they kill all of it because they're dealing with the fungus. They're dealing with nematodes, little roundworms, microscopic roundworms that destroy the potato, and then they spray on top of that an herbicide that covers the soil.
Okay.
And so these herbicides are all, I looked them all up. They're all considered toxic.
Right.
Highly hazardous, toxic. They're all rated.
How big is this field that we're talking about?
Oh, we're talking about thousands of acres.
Thousands of acres.
It just goes on
so
forever.
They're coming in with large machinery, airplanes, and that's how they're getting the soil ready, right?
Yeah. Well, there is a crop dusting step in there.
Okay.
Talk about the airplanes, and then they use a systemic insecticide when they plant.
Okay.
A systemic insecticide is an insecticide that goes into the plant. Every tissue cell into the plant. So when the insect eats the plant, it dies.
Oh.
Well, it also affects pollen, right?
Yeah.
So who?
The bees. Yeah. The bees are dying.
So we're in systemic. They use a special systemic insect in the vineyards here in Temecula to kill an insect that destroys a lot of the grapes. So long term, what does that mean? I have no idea.
Right.
I just know systemic insecticides are really, really scary. And once they do that, then they
sorry for my ignorance,
go ahead,
but
sorry.
Is this systemic insecticide, is it a living organism?
No, it's a chemical.
It's a chemical so it's in the plant.
They spray it on a plant, the tissue suck it in.
Okay.
Or they may put it in irrigation and the roots suck it up.
Oh my.
And then it's in the tissue. So now the the plant's growing, and then insect goes to bite on the
root or whatever.
The root or the tissue, they die.
Instant.
And pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So
so
my question is, of course FDA is going to say it's safe, but really, is it safe? How much of that's in the potato itself?
Right.
Still. So it's
part of the tissue.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're going to spray it again when the plants are 6 inches tall with another herbicide. Okay. Another herbicide. Boom. 6 inches tall. They spray with another herbicide.
Why do you do that? Is it because to kill more bugs that's on there?
There's insects. There's the aphid. An aphid is the scary one for the potato grower because it transmits a virus.
Okay.
Now a lot of this pressure is put on the farmer because the commercial restaurants and fast food restaurants do not want spots on little brown spots on their fries.
They want perfect.
They want perfect potatoes.
Right.
To get perfect potatoes, you have to have almost a clean, lab-free manufacturing plant on the ground. So that's what it is. Do those brown spots affect the taste? Not really.
No.
And then they do a weekly spraying at every 10 weeks
Okay.
of chemical fertilizers. So they're spraying chemical fertilizers on there every 10 weeks. And then they do another fungicide. They do a fungicide on the plant that kills all the fungus. And I mentioned Bravo there. It's a very, very toxic fungicide. And the fungicide is what kills
That's a brand?
That kills the same fungus that killed all the potatoes in Ireland.
Oh.
So because that fungus gets loose and out of control, it can take out a potato field in overnight. It's insane. The potatoes just melt.
Okay.
This next one is the scary one. Then they then they hire a crop duster that goes through, and then they start putting on an organophosphate pesticide. Now, organophosphate pesticide is super, super deadly, and what it does is it targets certain parts of an insect, and most of the time it targets like an enzyme in the insect. Well, what it does to humans is it affects our nervous system.
Right.
It's deadly. Now, the farmer that this particular guy was interviewing will not go into his field after they use Monitor. It's deadly. He won't let any of his workers go in there, family, dogs, pets, cat. They cannot go in that field.
For how long?
For at least 4 days. So it's scary stuff. Now, what they've discovered is that there's GMO potatoes now.
Okay.
Now, if you use a GMO potato, you can cut all this stuff in half, or even more.
All these
Right,
steps
right?
now.
Because they can actually put some of the protection, some of the things that naturally kill insects into the potato. But then again, we're eating that now.
Yeah.
You know, they've discovered how to put glyphosate in corn and
Right.
Sugar beets, everything. So.
My.
So I think that's even worse, using GMO potatoes. Now the question is, can you go into a field and eat a potato anytime, at any phase of its growing? That it's growing.
In
No.
the industrial phase, you
You
cannot.
can't. No, you wouldn't.
cannot.
Now this same farmer says that he won't eat his potatoes. He always grows a field off to the side that uses no chemicals.
So that's his own private stash of
It's
potatoes?
his private stash of potatoes.
So
this particular farmer.
So this particular farmer is an industrial farmer. That's how he makes his living. But then he's growing organically his own potatoes.
I wouldn't say it's organic. He's just not using his all his heavy duty chemicals. He might be putting organic inorganic fertilizers on it.
Okay.
But he's not using these deadly chemicals on it. You got to understand, they have so much invested in capital.
Yeah, there's a whole business.
There's a
side
whole
of
business,
this,
and
of course.
then the
Yeah.
industry is pressuring them to create perfect potatoes.
Right. Wow. Okay, so now let's just take a slight detour. How different is that? We're going to get into the organic potato farming, but before we do, how different is this industrial farming of potatoes different from a carrot, or different from like other fruits or vegetables
that are grown commercially,
Yes.
non-organic?
Yes.
I would say that with carrots and other crops, they're not necessarily destroying the soil. They're not fumigating the soil.
So that step that we say here, because I'm going to post this blog that Randy wrote. So the first step is fumigating the soil and just basically destroying everything. So which fruits and vegetables have that as a first step in industrial
I have to do more
farming?
research, but strawberries are another one.
Strawberries are
I think are really scary.
that
They
just
got to fumigate the soil.
Yeah. Wow.
You'll see a commercial strawberry field, and they just have plastic all over the field, and they're just pumping in gas.
Wow.
They're fumigating the soil.
Wow.
But they're pretty strawberries, and they're really
They're really big.
Yeah, they're really, really big.
That always makes me run. I'm like, why are they so big?
I know. It's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so now we understand and have a base for the industrial farming practices for potato and those steps. Now, the same challenges we have for the organic farmer, right?
Right.
Because he's like, well, I want to farm and do a better process for this. I'm still being pressured by the restaurants to produce a perfect potato. Mind you, not so many restaurants
their
are
market's going to be
organic.
different. Their market's going to be different because their potatoes aren't going to be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's more for the end user because there's so few restaurants across the country that are organic.
I mean, McDonald's fries are just amazing. I have to admit that. They're really, really good. And they tried to go GMO, but the public went crazy. So they went back to the russet, the Burbank russet potato.
Okay.
But because Burbank developed that in the late 1800s, it's an old variety, but it's so good.
Okay.
They have to really protect it with chemicals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why McDonald's will only use Burbank russet potatoes.
When you say they're good, you mean the flavor. You like the flavor.
The flavor is unbelievable.
It's okay, Randy.
Sorry.
We'll help you with that.
I'm in a different phase of my. I'm a good eater. Yeah. I'm an okay eater. Yeah. Don't rate me, okay, Pia?
It's a journey. We will help you.
And don't talk to my wife either.
So, yeah, there's all sorts of bad going on.
Hey, but after this article, I will never eat a McDonald's French fry ever again. Guarantee it. No, I won't.
Okay, but that process of a McDonald's fry goes through the same thing that you described.
Yes.
Okay, so the fumigation,
all
of that is exactly the same.
McDonald's expects a perfect potato.
Okay.
No blemishes. And what's really sad for the farmer, they'll take this to the packing house or wherever. If they discover one or two potatoes that have that spot, they'll reject the farmer's entire crop.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
What's the difference between the industrial and an organic industrial as far as the chemicals and that process?
They have to be smarter.
Okay.
It isn't as pretty. You're going to find weeds in
the field.
In the field of organic.
So you're still starting with those cuts that you described
Still
first.
the same process.
Okay, so now we have same challenges, fields. One is organic, one isn't.
But the organic farmer will use multiple varieties.
Okay.
So instead of Burbank russet in hundreds and hundreds of acres, they'll do 3 or 4 or 5 potato varieties.
Okay.
And so if one doesn't do well, the other ones will. That's usually what happens.
Okay.
So
they have the different ones for more like insurance for that purpose, or to confuse insects?
I would say both. It's
Okay.
It's a type of biodiversity.
Okay.
And you're giving yourself some insurance on what's going to survive.
Okay.
They also depend heavily on sophisticated crop rotations.
Okay.
So you don't, and the commercial farmers, in their defense, they don't plant potatoes year after year in the same field. They rotate it around. But organic farmers, not only do they rotate their crops, but they're very specific on what crops follow and why they follow. It's very, very scientific. Some of the stuff's secret because it's their competitive advantage.
Okay.
But they'll use, they'll follow it with wheat because wheat, it confuses some of the potato pests. They may not go back to that field for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is if you don't do crop rotation, if you plant a tomato plant in your garden year after year, you'll notice that you get more and more insects.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're just accumulating.
It's going to come back.
No, it's going to be here.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
That's the danger of monoculture.
Okay.
So yeah, they use a lot of intercropping.
Okay.
So they'll plant clover, they'll plant flowers in there, they'll plant very biodiverse.
Okay.
They'll plant a row of potatoes and maybe they plant a row of something else. So there's a lot of stuff going on. They allow weeds to get in there. Weeds act as a trap plant.
Okay.
So a lot of insects like weeds. And then the predators come in there. So you'll find the population of predators to insect pests are really high.
Okay.
So there's nothing being killed out there. I mean, it's all, and they use natural fertilizers. So they still have to use fertilizers, but they're natural. They're going to be probably. I think this particular farmer uses fish emulsion, fish powders, manure, compost, things like that. They do use a fungicide, but it's an organic fungicide. It's a copper spray. Copper's been used for hundreds of years to control fungicide, and it's labeled an organic, safe fungicide.
Okay, so there's some spraying going on in the organic, growing industry. We know that because I think there's over 200 different sprays that are allowed.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, so I mean that's the more in the concept of the industrial organic, right? Because if we're looking at local organic, then we have even more control because we'll have a smaller farmer that is able to control more of it, and then not have a choice of not having to spray as many items, right? So you've got industrial, which would be the first part that we described. Now we're describing industrial organic potatoes, which again is going to be better. But then if we talk about local organic potatoes and the growing of that, how different would that be? Because that's kind of what Harvest to You brings to the table, is this wonderful resource for us to get local organic produce that's grown in season delivered to your door. And so, but are we doing a lot of potatoes?
Hey, that's a really good question.
Okay.
For several reasons. First of all, I can't find farmers in Southern California that grow potatoes organically. There's such an opportunity here because we haven't really grown. There hasn't really been an established potato industry here, so we don't have all the diseases and insects that Idaho would have.
Okay.
And they're really easy to grow.
Okay. We'll get on it.
Well, what I've done is I've planted a lot of potatoes this year.
Okay.
So the only pest that I'm having problems with is the gophers. So I've taken care of them organically, naturally, no poisons. And so it's a great opportunity. So the way that I grow potatoes, I grow them in a bed. I grow all my vegetables in 100 square foot beds.
Okay.
20 by 5. That way I can.
Is this a raised bed?
It eventually becomes raised.
Okay.
But they're in a field.
Okay.
They're not a raised bed for sure with wooden with wooden sides. And then my potatoes are going crazy.
So you started the same way that the industrial farmer would and the industrial organic.
Well, they're going to plant
would.
theirs in rows, right?
Okay.
I plant mine on 9 triangular spacings of 9 inches apart.
Okay.
So you get certified potatoes online. You can buy certified potatoes online. Get a bunch of varieties.
Those same trimmings.
Yeah, they're
either
little baby ones or they're cut up.
Okay.
And then you plant them about 6 inches deep.
Okay.
On 9-inch centers.
Okay.
And if people did that in their raised beds, they come up in about a week. Because you know how fast they grow in your pantry, right?
Yeah.
They're going to do the same thing in the soil.
Okay.
I mean, they're incredible. And so I just I have 4 beds now of potatoes.
No matter what time of year, after 1 week, you'll start getting potatoes?
No. It takes about 9 months to get potatoes. It takes a whole season.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes a long time. Maybe not even that long, but it takes a while. But what happens is they're very frost tender. So at the end of the year, as soon as you get your first frost, they'll die down. Or when they're ready, they die down.
Okay.
And when the plants start to die down, then you know your potatoes are ready. And you can leave them in the ground, or you can harvest them.
Okay.
And then store them. So, I mean, that's the beauty of potatoes. I can grow them for Harvest to You, store those, and we have potatoes for
all
at least
round.
a couple months.
A good season.
Now, see, I don't know what potato varieties do well in this area, so I get many varieties.
Okay. And you're testing to see.
And potatoes have forgotten how to seed. Put a seed.
Okay.
It's very rare that you would get a potato that would produce a fruit for seeds. They forgot how to seed. So I have a couple plants that are actually blooming.
Oh.
So I'm hoping that I get
blooming with flowers.
With flowers.
Oh, how
I'm
pretty.
hoping that I can get some. They look like little tomatoes.
Okay.
Because they're in the tomato family. They're in a nice shape.
Yeah.
And I could have my own variety, Temecula variety, if I could do that. But I don't know if they're going to take. It's really hard to take. But yeah, so it's easy to grow potatoes in Temecula.
Okay. So it's possible that when we get our box from Harvest to You, that we will get some potatoes that you've grown.
Well, we've grown.
Okay, great.
They're going to be yellow, white, purple.
All different.
I picked all of them. And then
great.
I'll decide on which ones do the best, and I'll kind of narrow down to those varieties.
Okay. So now, what are some tips if somebody wants to try this, that watch this video and say, oh, you know, I want to grow my own potatoes just like what Randy did. Where did you go to buy those trimmings, and how can somebody...
Just go online,
okay.
type in certified seed potatoes. It's kind of...
Seed.
Yeah, it's
okay.
seed, but it's not really a seed.
Okay.
It's small little bit baby potatoes.
Okay.
And they're certified, they're fungus free,
okay.
there's no diseases on them. And they'll come in the mail, and you can plant them. Now, what I would do is, everybody now is playing around with those planter boxes, right?
Yeah.
Is I would use...
I think you have some too, right?
Yeah. They're great. I would go to Home Depot or Lowe's.
Okay.
And I highly recommend Kellogg's organic compost mix. It's great.
Okay.
And use that, but also put in some soil from your yard in there too.
Okay.
So you're going to be introducing microorganisms in there.
Okay.
And then just plant the potatoes.
Do they want to drip? Did you do a drip system or just
if you
water?
want?
Okay.
I on my kitchen garden I water by hand overhand.
Okay.
And just keep the soil moist, not super wet.
Okay.
Don't let it dry out, and your potatoes will... Now, you can't grow potatoes in that bin for at least 2 years.
After you grow your first batch.
Yeah, you don't want to keep growing potatoes in
okay.
that bin because you're not rotating your crops.
Right.
So I'd follow it with lettuce, carrots, and then after 2 years, grow potatoes in there again.
Right, but you'd have a different bin that you could keep growing
yeah,
potatoes
you could rotate
in, right?
it. Yeah,
so you just
absolutely.
Go, oh, in that bin, I'll just put potatoes in there next year.
Right. And another thing, too, is because our climate's so mild, you can literally plant your potatoes in the winter.
Okay.
They'll be hanging out.
Okay.
And as soon as the weather gets warm, they'll shoot up.
Wow.
After the rains.
Is there a prime time to pick the potatoes, like the smaller ones or the bigger ones, or the
when the plant dies down, you know it's ready.
Okay.
The plant will die.
And it dies down because the flower's off of it?
No, the plant just wilts and gets dry out.
So
and
it's just been all the nutrients out of the top, so that can tell us you.
No, it just goes through its life cycle and it just dies.
Oh, okay.
So is it an annual? It won't come up again?
It's an annual in the sense that it comes up and dies, but it'll keep coming up. You know, theoretically, they can come up every year because the roots.
Oh.
Potatoes theoretically can spread.
Okay.
Oh.
So if they keep living and they're perennial, can you just, and you said you don't want them in that one bed, can you just transplant it into the other bed? Would that make sense to do that, or is it you're still using the same thing?
Well, no, you're going to be harvesting the potatoes.
Yeah.
At the end of the
but
season.
the root from the actual plant, because if it will come up again, and you can
the potatoes are part of the root. So the way that a potato plant is, it roots out, and on all these little roots, little potatoes form.
Okay.
And that's how you get. So potatoes are really kind of a nodule off of a root.
Okay.
So it is. Think of it as part of the root.
Okay. Interesting.
It's like an iris.
Okay.
You can divide an iris every two or 3 years.
Okay. How fun.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so what are some closing tips that we can give here to our viewers and those of you that are interested in growing potatoes? And hopefully we're all understanding now you do not want to go and order industrial potatoes in a restaurant or even buy industrial potatoes at this
I
point,
wouldn't know.
right?
And I'm probably from a scale of 1 to 10 I'm a clean eater. I'm probably a 6.
Okay, on your own judgment.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. On my own judgment.
Okay.
On your judgment, I'm probably a 4.
That high? I'm teasing.
So I will not eat a potato anymore.
Okay.
I just won't unless I know it's organic because
Okay.
there's so many chemicals that go into it.
Right.
And they're literally destroying our soil.
Right.
Would you eat an industrial organic potato?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So an industrial organic potato you'll eat, and then obviously a local organic, which is what you're growing.
Right.
Clearly, that's the best because then you're controlling everything. And so when you grow these potatoes, you're not spraying anything. You're not.
No. I don't use and neither do any of my partner farms that I
Right.
work with. Today, because they hold other information in because it's like competitive advantage.
Yeah.
But one of my farmers today, he actually buys ladybugs and green lacewings every year.
Okay.
To control insects. And the green lacewings, they're voracious predators, and they eat aphids.
Okay.
One year he told me he got too many, and they started eating each other. So.
But that's the advantage of a local organic farm versus the industrial organic farm, because the industrial organic farm will still use the approved organic sprays like the copper that you explained over here and the organic and the natural fertilizer. Right. The local organic farmers won't do that.
They're not that I know of. They don't really need to.
Right.
There's a lot of advantages of being small.
Right.
It's easier to manage.
You can control
steps, things. Yeah. You can watch things. You can learn quicker on how your environment works.
Right. So. Well, another great episode with Randy Farrar from At Harvest to You. That's where you can find them. So go to harvesttoyou.com. Mm-hmm. The handle on social media is At Harvest to You. This is Randy Farrar. He owns Harvest to You. And if you've never heard of them, they're a company that deals with, it's up to 10 farmers now, local farmers, that they harvest every week, and you get a box delivered to your house. And the box is filled with all seasonal produce, either vegetables or fruits, a combo of those. You have an opportunity to go online and customize what you want to have. They'll deliver to your door, or you can even pick up in the store if that's more convenient for you.
Yeah, this is a pickup place.
Yes, absolutely. So we support them tremendously. We love this company. We want you to be a member. This is absolutely one of the first steps in becoming a clean eater is, again, your story. You have a plate of food in front of you, right? And your plate wants to tell you a story. It does. It's only if you ask it. Okay, if you don't ask any questions, you'll continue to eat these industrial potatoes without knowing all of this other information that we were so blessed to hear today. So Randy, once again, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I know we're going to be doing more of these. They're so informative. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we do, because I learned so much from this. Any last minute questions, Dina, that you'd like to know?
Dina's going to go home and plant potatoes.
Yeah, I want to too.
They're easy.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Yes, I want to too. So until next time, we will see you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.